I was told that you yesterday and the other day you did some Solidity, right, with Foundry. Okay, so during this lesson we will use Foundry again, but we will use it inside the ScaffoldETH, which is a framework that is very useful to start coding Web3 and blockchain. But we have some prerequisites. So we should check that everyone has Node, at least at this version. So if you don't know how to check if you have Node, you just need to open a terminal, write Node -v, and you can see your version. So if you have a version that is below this one, 20.18.3, I suggest you to update it. Otherwise, you can't proceed with the installation of ScaffoldETH. Then we need also Yarn, which is a package manager, and there are a couple of versions here. I suggest you to install V2. And if you follow the link, yeah, I will give you this link in a second. If you follow this link, you will see all the instructions, and then you have to have Git installed in your machine. But I think you have it. I mean, if you're coders, if you're programmers, you may have it. So, Gallo, c'è un posto dove posso mandare il link?
Sul gruppo dell'Urbe Campus Napoli.
Telegram? Ci sono dentro. Sa che non sono nel gruppo. Just a second, we are setting everything up to admin in a group, so I can share your links with you. Okay. So this is the installation page of ScaffoldETH. We will go there in a second, and you can follow the links here to install Yarn or Node, or update or install Node. So I have some questions for you before we start. First of all, do you know the difference between front end and back end? So okay. So yeah, essentially when you are coding for blockchain as a full stack developer, you are mainly focused on the front end part, because the back end is mainly served by the blockchain itself. Sometimes you want to have a backend, maybe if you want to support your coding with a database, etc. It's not a sin to use a database in blockchain if you, of course, use it to, for example, cache data or retrieve data in an easier way than writing the data in the blockchain itself. So as a full stack developer, you should think that you are mainly doing front end during blockchain development. And another question, are you familiar with React? No, zero. You are? Okay, you are. Okay, what about JavaScript? Did you do something with JavaScript, like basic applications, like basic websites? Okay. So React essentially is a framework for JavaScript. And today we will use React with Tailwind also, which is a CSS framework as well. And it will be super easy. I will show you how to use all the classes inside our code. And on top of that, we will use also Next.js, which is a framework that allows you to manage all your pages in your web applications. And this framework, Next.js, will be inside ScaffoldETH. So it's like a lot of layers we will have to go through. I will try to be as clear as possible, but if you have questions or anything, feel free to stop me, because if you miss even a little step, you may get lost. So yeah, let's start by installing, creating the ScaffoldETH project. If you go here, you can see there's a command that you can launch with npx, which is a script to execute, a node script that allows you to execute things like this one, like create ETH latest, that will bootstrap the project. So I copied it, and let's launch it. Can you see the terminal? or it's too... Okay, maybe this is better. Okay. You need, of course, to install this package. So say yes, and we will give a project name to this project, like this. Now, when it asks for the Solidity framework, since you used Foundry, we will use Foundry as well during this lesson. And I think you already installed everything to make Foundry run, right? Yesterday, like Rust and also the Foundry app. I think you already have it in your machine. If you don't have it, we will see it, because you will have errors, and we will stop and install for everyone. It will take a while. So essentially, scaffoldETH is composed of two packages. One is the Next.js package, which allows us to create a nice front end with all the functions we have to call to interact with the blockchain from our website. And then we have the Foundry package. We will use the Foundry package a bit less because you already did it, but we need, of course, to set it up, because we need to put the contracts inside the right folders and run some scripts to deploy the contracts, compile, of course, the contracts, and interact with them from the CLI. So in the meantime, you can see here you have some already pre-built components, React components, and we will get there in a second. And you also have some smart contract hooks. React hooks are essentially small pieces of code that allows you to run functions using things of React, like use effect, states, etc. And we will see that later as well. Okay. So now you just need to open the repo, I mean the folder with your preferred IDE. In my case, I will use Cursor. I will try to not press tab too many times, because otherwise everything will be done by the AI, and we don't want it. Let me zoom a bit. Okay, nice, it crashed, I think. Great start. Okay. Can you see it? Guys, can you see it? Yes. Okay, great. So here inside your main folder, you can notice this folder called packages. Inside the packages, you can find Foundry, as I told you before, and Next.js. So we will mainly put our hands in Next.js, but we need to bootstrap the Foundry folder, because inside, as you can see, there's your contract.sol standard contract that scaffoldETH provides us to start doing blockchain things. But we don't want this one. So we'll share with you with this repo that probably you already saw yesterday, because Drone yesterday did the lessons. They did the lesson and created this repo. And he updated some functions. We'll go through them, because we need these functions to show things in our front end to the user. Like, for example, the campaign that the user created, or which campaigns the user actually funded, etc. And let me zoom a bit. Okay. And if you go inside this folder, you can see there's a source folder, subfolder here, and this is the main contract, actually, the crowdfunding platform.sol. If you click on this, you can see there are now some important functions that Drone added under the getters functions section. For example, here we have the get campaigns, which is very useful to retrieve all the campaigns that are actually inside the smart contract. I mean, that were created in the smart contract. Also here, get contribution by user that gives us the amount that the user contributed to the campaign, to a specific campaign. So as you can see here, we have the campaign ID and we have to specify the user as well to retrieve this information. And also here we have all the contributions for all the campaigns. I think we won't use, okay, we won't use this one. This one also allows you to get all the campaigns in a specific range, because if you follow the lesson yesterday, you may remember that campaigns are identified by numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you want to get campaigns in a specific range, you can do it using this function, but probably we won't use this one as well. I think the most important one, the one that we will use for sure, is this one, the get campaigns, and also this one, the get contribution by user, because we want to see how much the user contributed to the campaign, in order also to check if he gained the NFT or whatever. So let's copy this contract. Zoom. So let's copy this contract, and here inside your contract, you can delete everything and paste this one. I hope there's no error. Okay, we have one because we have also to import the interface. We will do it in a second. And also let's copy this name here, crowdfunding platform, and let's rename the yourcontract.sol file. Okay, let's now create a new folder called interfaces, because we need, of course, the interface for this contract. And here on GitHub, you can find another file, another .sol file with all the interfaces. If you remember, these are actually the errors that the contract may launch during the execution. Also, you have the campaign status, because we want to see if the campaign is completed, if it was claimed or whatever, and also a struct that will match the TypeScript structure that we will use in the front end. So in the front end, I'm expecting to see a field creator, a field title, etc. So we can show everything about the campaign in our front end. So let's copy this one as well, and let's put it into interfaces. Okay, if I will rename it later. The name is crowdfunding platform. Let's give it a second. Maybe just need to close it and reopen. Okay, it looks like it works. So now we have our smart contract inside our contracts folder, and but we need a script to deploy this contract, because the cool thing about Scaffoldit is that it provides a lot of scripts to compile, deploy, etc. But you have to set up things before you go ahead. So let's go inside the script folder. And as you can see here, we have the deploy.s.sol. This is the script that is actually called when we will launch our commands. We will see them later. And as you can see here, the deploy your contract object here is taken from the deploy your contract.s.sol. And we need to change this one in particular, because now it's not called your contract anymore. It is called crowdfunding platform. So yeah, as you can see, it's it's whining. So we need to rename this with crowdfunding platform.sol, and here create the crowdfunding platform. But the thing is that if you remember, the crowdfunding platform needs some arguments passed to the constructor. We need a USDC address, a name for the contract, and a symbol. So luckily, the guy from yesterday, Drone, already did something in his deployer.s.sol script that launched probably yesterday. So we need, of course, to get, where is it getting the USDC? Anyway, I'm sorry. Let's copy this part. Let's put it inside our script here. Okay. We need, of course, the USDC address. Now, the USDC address we will use is the one that is deployed on base Sepolia. Did you use an actual testnet yesterday, or you used a local blockchain?
We did test on Anvil.
Anvil, okay, so a local blockchain. Do you have MetaMask? Because we will need it later.
I don't know if we
A what? I'm sorry?
I can't remember if he deployed
Probably he deployed in the local blockchain.
on the Facebook and then okay.
On base Sepolia? He deployed on base Sepolia?
Looks like it.
Okay, so you probably already have the chain here, the base Sepolia chain here. And since we need to interact with the USDC smart contract, which is only on chain, if you want to spin a local blockchain, you should redeploy this smart contract, but we don't want to. We want to interact directly with the testnet blockchain. I will give you the smart contract address of this, which is this one. I will paste it here. Did it work?
You sent it.
Okay, I can see it from here. Okay, I trust you. If we go, for example, on base Polia, if we go in the Explorer, base Polia Explorer, and we paste this smart contract address here, we can see it points straight to the. Yeah, we need to pass the human verification before anything else, but you will see that it's linked to the actual deployment of USDC. Okay. This one. It's a little bit unofficial. If you go, for example, on mainnet and you search for USDC on mainnet, you will see all the logos and things. Here it's just written USDC. We will trust them. So
you can check on Circle Faucet and get tokens and you check.
Yeah, of course you can do the same. I have it here. Do you have already some testnet USDCs?
Me, yes.
You have them?
Do you need?
No, I have them. I will send you this link because it will come in hand later. Oh, this. Okay, it doesn't change anything. Great. So later, when we'll need some testnet tokens, we can go here and grab them. It gives, I think, $10, which is enough for our testing purposes. So let's go back here, and we also need to. We need to create this USDC address. And we need to use it in the constructor as the first argument here. Okay. Doesn't like it. So measure from string storage ref to address. Let's see if it likes it with address. Okay. Yeah, we need to specify that it is an address. Because actually here you are coding Solidity, which is something that I usually don't do. But there's another framework actually to do testing and things in Solidity, but it is written in JavaScript, which is RDOT, but we won't cover it. But anyway, we created our instance of the smart contract. And now we need to add these two things to tell the change of state to the blockchain, which are VM start broadcast and VM stop broadcast, like this. I think this one is not needed. Let me check. I think it gives an error or something. Yeah, let's try without it. Because actually this one is using all the Foundry framework, but we will use all the scaffolded functions with, of course, relay on Foundry, but they're a bit different. So now that we have everything set up, we need to go inside the foundry.toml file because we need to change the default network. The default network is the localhost. So if you're spinning a local blockchain, it will go straight to the local blockchain. But in our case, we need base Sepolia. And don't really remember how it was written. Just give me a second because I already did this. Why is it so small? Okay. I'm sorry, it's not here that we need to change it. Let me just check 1 second in documentation.
When you deploy, by default it runs on local, but if you do minus space deploy, you should.
You think it should go straight to the? Yeah, I think you're right. That was just this one, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you need to change the default network actually.
Well, if you don't want to specify it, yes.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe if you just specify it, it should.
Yes, you have like the index, so if you write basically on the plane, it will become.
Okay, let's try it. So let's open a terminal inside here. And here we have a lot of commands that start with yarn, because if you go into package.json, you can see there are a bunch of commands. Like, for example, we have yarn deploy, which is a shortened version of yarn foundry deploy, which is in turn the shortened version of the foundry deploy script. So what you're essentially doing here by saying yarn, like let's say compile, is telling Foundry that you want to compile and you're launching the actual command. And it failed. The tests, of course. Yeah, we need to change the tests as well. As you can see here, the name is still your contract.t.sol, which is not something we like. We need to go there, open the tests. Drone did this, I think, yesterday. Copy this one. Put everything here. We need to change the import as well, because now it's not in the source folder, but it is in the contracts folder. Let's see if he likes it. It seems so. And we need, of course, what's that? Yeah, because we are not using this. So let's log them. One ugly thing about scaffolded is that it wants you to use every single variable that you are declaring. So not campaign title. Okay. Doesn't like this because we need to specify that it is an address, log address. Okay. And we need to change the name of your contract.t.sol as well into crowdfunding.t.sol. I know this is a bit boring, but we need to set everything up before going. Now let's see if we actually solve the error. Let's try to compile. Okay, so the contracts are now compiled, but we still didn't deploy them. To deploy the contracts, we need, of course, to have a private key in our environment, because we are not deploying on the local blockchain, but we are deploying straight into the testnet, which means you need to have tokens to do it, and of course you need tokens in the local blockchain as well, but they are free. In this case, they are not, so you need to provide a private key. So I created an address here, which is this one. If you go here in your MetaMask, I suggest you to create another one. Or anyway, if you want to use the one that you used yesterday, just don't put real money in it, because we need to use the private key of this one. So we need into account details. Okay. Into details, and here you can show the private key. You need to use your password. Get the private key. You have to copy it. And now here we have to launch another command, which is account import, because we want to use our own private key. We need to choose a name, so we will use dev. We need to paste our private key here. It won't show anything because, of course, it's private. And set up a password, which is not shown as well, but I actually typed. So as you can see here, now we have a dev key store. I think Drone told you about key stores, right? Yeah. Okay, great. Exactly. And of course, we have the public address, which is the same one that you can see inside MetaMask. So now that we have embedded our private key inside this environment, we can launch yarn deploy. But in particular, we need to deploy it on base Sepolia. So we will use this one, yarn deploy -- network. And the network name in particular is base. It should work, at least yesterday it worked. I already had one, okay. It kept the environment. Anyway, you just need to put the number that corresponds to your key store. It will recompile. A broadcast is active already. I think I need to clean Foundry, or maybe just let me try with the other one. No. Let me try to run with a new terminal. Okay, actually, I never saw this, so just give me a second.
It looks like you have two times one broadcast on the script, according to
You think here?
so,
Let's try to. I don't know if this may work. Let's try to stop it before starting it. No. No broadcast in progress to stop. Nice. But it said it was running. Maybe, you know what? Maybe something is missing, and this something, I think, is this one. Not sure about that, but let's try it. No. Okay. So removing the true VM start and stop broadcast actually did the trick. Probably because the session kept running in my computer, and I was trying to restart another one. It probably won't give you an error if you're using VM start broadcast, but in my case, I had to remove both of them because actually it seems like it was still running. So we can see here that my laptop is going on fire. You can see here that we used some gas, of course, to deploy the smart contract on chain. And we actually have an address here. If we go on the blockchain, on the block explorer, we will find that this contract was deployed at this address. Of course, there's no transaction in it. We will send some in a matter of moments. And we can see the contract here because we didn't verify it, but it's not a problem because we will interact with the contract from the NapulETH user interface. So we won't verify it. Did you verify contracts yesterday with Jonah? Okay, so you know that when you verify contracts, you will see a list of codes you can do to the contract. We will see the same exact list inside NapulETH, which is pretty powerful actually. So okay, now that we deployed our smart contract, we need to go there and run yard start. This one will interact with Next.js and not Foundry anymore, and it will spin in your local machine the Next.js instance. If we connect to this address here, this URL, localhost 3000, it's compiling. Yeah, it's compiling. what we will see is the debugger of scaffolded, which has all the functions of our smart contract. And also we have a very practical navbar. If okay, thank God. We have a navbar here where you can access the home, which will change. We will change this one. You're on chain. I need to change the target network. I'm sorry. We need to go inside Next.js folder here. Not this one. Scaffold config. Here. So you need to go inside scaffold.config.ts and change here the target network from chains.foundry, which is the local chain, to chain.base support. And I think this will solve the error. Okay. As you can see here, I already connected my wallet, but if I click on disconnect, you're probably seeing this one. This is actually Rainbow. I will show you what Rainbow is. This one is a library that allows you to. This is actually the. Just a second. Rainbow Kit. This is a wallet connector. As you can see here, it's the exact same one we have in Scaffolded. And with this wallet connector, it has all the hooks and customizations available here in the documentation. We won't touch this, but in the future, maybe you want to build an app without Scaffolded. It's good that you know that you can go here to Rainbow Kit and you can find a wallet connector ready-made and ready to use in your application. In our case, we are lucky because Scaffolded already has it integrated. So we can connect with our MetaMask with this wallet. And we can see here that I have 0.1 Ether, which is fake, unfortunately, otherwise it's $277. But these are the Ethers that we will use to deploy, interact with our smart contract, etc. We have, of course, some things we can do, like copy the address or view the QR code. If we go into debug contracts, we can see that the contract that we deployed, if it loads, it's this one, and has all the functions we saw in the code, in the Solidity code, plus some other functions that are a little bit polluting everything, but these functions are there like the balance off because we inherited ERC 721 standard. So inside our contract, there's also a lot of there's also another set of functions that are related to the ERC 721. The functions that we'd like to use are get campaign, for example, get campaign in range. These are our functions. Here you can find also the write functions. Like this one, the approve comes from the ERC 721. But for example, this one, the create campaign that we will use in a second, is from our side. So let's go here and do some testing. Test title, test description. Cool. Since we are using USDT has only 6 decimals. So I need to write, for example, here I want to put 50 cents as the goal for this campaign. Since we are using USDT, it's just 6 decimals. So I will use 5 zeros. 3, 4, 5. About the expiration date, I can share with you this website, but you can find it by simply writing Unix timestamp. And you can select, for example, the day you want to have the campaign expired. And this is the Unix standard for timestamping. I will share it with you, even if it's really easy to find. But anyway, if we copy this one, we can paste it. Where was it? Here. And this is the minimum for the NFT. I will put 10 cents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We probably won't use the NFT at all, but anyway, I will put it because it's needed to create the campaign. When I click send, now instead of going to the local blockchain and immediately mining the block and thus executing the transaction, it will call the wallet provider, which is MetaMask. And it says that there's a transaction request. If I click on confirm, it will give us the receipt. Here you have some information that we won't use from here. We will see something here as well, like for example, the creator of the smart contract of the campaign, which is me, the title, description, etc. And also a very important thing is that now here we have inside the USDC variable, we have the address of USDC, and we will use this later. Okay. Are you up to date? Are you following? Are there any questions before I go ahead? Okay. So now we will start the front end part, the actual front end part. Since we need to show the user what is doing with the blockchain, we need to be as clear as possible. This is a guideline you should follow if you're participating in hackathons, for example, because otherwise, when people are going there, for example, judging your project, they may not understand what is happening. So let's say you want your user to do a transaction. You can't just pop MetaMask out without saying anything. You need to say what is happening, because when you're not in testnet, of course, people are putting real money inside your application. So you have to be as much clear as possible. Provide, for example, links to explorers, etc. So now, since we have one campaign, we can try to show the campaign in our home page. Going back to the code. Now, actually, this Foundry package won't be touched anymore, I think, unless we need to change the smart contract, but I don't think so, only if there are bugs. Inside the Next.js folder here, we have all the structure of this folder. I will explain it a little bit because it's pretty difficult at first if you never saw Next.js. So here you have the package.json. Inside the package.json file, you can see all the packages that are actually dependencies of this project. So, for example, this project is using WAGMI. When you are working with your Next.js application, you can use Node to add dependencies to your project. So let's say, for example, I want to add. I see there's no Lucid React. I want to add a package here. I will use yarn add Lucid React. This is not yarn. Sorry, yarn. Yarn is the package manager. So it will go here inside this file. It will add Lucid React, which is a very useful library that I will show you in a second to add icons. Icons are pretty useful in your project. So let's say, for example, we want this AirPlay. You can easily copy the JSX and put it in your code. Maybe we will do it later. But this is just an example on how to manage your packages. So in this case, it added, I think... it added to the general package.json, I think. Yeah. So since this scaffolded has two packages, which are Foundry and Next.js, it added it to the global package.json, but this will go through all the applications. So Next.js will have access to Lucid React as well. And inside the package.json also, you can see there are some scripts here, like, for example, build, dev. For example, when we launched yarn start, it was actually this command here, this next dev command. Everything is abstracted to the level of the package manager, which is yarn. And talking about the actual front end, what you see, everything starts from the layout. You can find the layout below the app folder. And here in the layout, you can see that this is React actually. So it's if you're not really used to it, ask me questions, because otherwise you will get stuck. But essentially, what you can do in React is using TSX files, which are a mix of HTML, inline styling, which is done through Tailwind in our case, and JavaScript, or better in this case, TypeScript code. So let's say, for example, if I want to create a constant here, we can do it like this. Now it says that it's not used, but we can write actually JavaScript code here and HTML code inside the return of this function, which is the scaffolded app. And we will make a lot of use of this later. So everything starts here from the layout file. In the layout file, you have some wrappers that are essentially React contexts, which give to the children, which is everything that is loaded inside our app, some context. For example, there's a theme provider. We won't go through it, but we will trust that Scaffolded is using a theme probably. And also the Scaffolded app with providers that I think, let me check. Yeah, as for example, the WAGMI provider, which allows us to make MetaMask pop. The query client provider that is used by WAGMI as well to do queries like reading from the blockchain, etc. And the Rainbow Kit provider, which is the one that we saw earlier, which is the wallet connector and other things that we won't see. But anyway, this was to show you that everything we will build will pass through these providers. And our actual application is children. So everything is children in our case. For example, let's take the page, this one. This is the home page. This is at the / the root URL. And we can see it because here we have welcome to Scaffolded 2. And if we go here, we can see welcome to Scaffolded 2. If I add something here, it should refresh. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I had to refresh manually, but anyway, it's added here. So starting from this, we can create every web page we want. And we will see also how to use JavaScript inside TSX files at this level before the return to make MetaMask pop and do everything with the blockchain. If we go inside the debug here, we can see there's another page, which is the page with the bug here, with all the functions of our smart contract. If you want to create another page, let's say we want to create a test page, you just need to create a new folder inside this app folder and add a file called page.tsx. Then inside here, we need to create an export default function. In this case, it's super easy. I'm just returning test. No, I'm not sure that Scaffolded, it doesn't automatically add it here on top on the navbar, but I think no. Header. So under the components folder, you can find the header. And here there are all the menu links. No, thank you, cursor. And let's say, yeah, it did it for me. But anyway, you can add links like this. So these menu links is probably used down here somewhere. Here, yeah. Inside the return. So this is something that you probably never saw before if you only used plain HTML and CSS, which is using variables inside the code this way. For example, this one is an array. array of objects made like this, and a function called map, which essentially use every item of the array to do something, is used straight inside the HTML code. You just need to use this parenthesis here, the curly brackets here, and here it is taking some arguments, which are actually these: label, href, and icon. And then inside this function map, there's a return statement that actually returns HTML. So the cool thing about React is that you can take JavaScript variables, let's call them TypeScript from now on, TypeScript variables that you, or constants that you previously filled with something, and use them inside the HTML code this way. And so this is just one element of the list. You have two elements right now here. If I refresh, I may see probably the third one appearing. Let's see if it works. Sorry, my laptop is pretty slow, but I'm also streaming. Yeah, as you can see here now that we have test. If we click on test, of course, there's nothing inside, just test. But this will come in hand probably during the hackathon when you need, for example, more than one page. The debug contracts page, you can remove it for the hackathon. It's not needed, but of course, while you are coding, it's good to have it here. But let's say you have like this crowdfunding campaign app. We will probably have one page to create the campaign, one page to explore all the campaigns, and I don't know what else, maybe one page to see the campaigns that you actually funded, etc. So you can add everything you want inside the navbar like this, just by adding your pages here. Now, they also accept an icon, which is cute. Talking about Lucid React, you can, of course, use icons from Lucid React. Here I see it is using icons from Hero Icons. You can use the library you prefer. Okay. Now let's go to the main page. Let me remove this one. It's pretty useless. Here in the main page, what I will do is simply take everything that is inside here and delete it, because we want to start from scratch. It's complaining, of course, because we are not using things, which is something that I hate, but probably the linter is set up in order to say us that we are not using some constants that we wrote. And now it's pretty much empty. Now let's say that we want to see all the campaigns that were created inside the smart contract. What can we do is going here in the scaffolded documentation and check the scaffolded smart contracts hooks. So for example, in this case, since we want to do a read on the blockchain, we will use this use scaffold read contract. We can copy this one and put it straight here into the TypeScript part of the TSX file. To import this, I usually use control dot, which opens this practical menu here. And we took this. Now, since we deployed the contract inside scaffolded, we should have the crowdfunding platform contract name already inside our application. And if we keep doing this, we can see all the functions that we can call inside this function name key value. So for example, let's say that we want get campaigns. It doesn't take arguments, I think, because it just fetches all the campaigns. And what it actually returns is an item called data. And what is happening here with this, I don't remember the English name, the double dots, yeah, that one. Yeah, you can rename variables. So for example, let's say we want to use this use scaffold read contract many times. We cannot use every time the data name for the variable, so we need to rename them. Rename them. In this case, cursor is suggesting me campaigns, and I will do it. I will happy to do it. And now inside the return, we can, as cursor is suggesting, use campaigns dot map to return like this. When you're using the map, you need to provide a key for each children that is coming out from the mapping. This campaign here is the actual item that is the item that is inside the array. Okay, he's suggesting us this, which is nice. I like it. Okay. Campaign does not have an ID, but it has a title. Okay. So right now I'm using as a key the campaign title, and inside this div, I can use, of course, again, the curly brackets to specify that I want the campaign.title element of this item here, the title element of this campaign here. And as you can see here on the front end, we have the test title, which is not much, but anyway, we just fetched something from the blockchain, which is cool. Now let's make it a little bit better. And to style it in React, you can use the class name prop, and inside the class name, you can use inline styling. So this is Tailwind essentially. If you're not really familiar with Tailwind, I will give you the documentation. It has pretty much everything inside. So let's take, for example, the flex, which is something you will use a lot. As you can see here, there are some examples. So it's very nice. You can see that, for example, using flex initial will do this thing to short, and it's here they say that it won't grow, but it will shrink if needed, etc. So you have to become a little bit confident with Tailwind CSS. So what I suggest to you, if you want to use scaffold it for the hackathon, is to go here and study it a little bit, or using it while you're coding, and when you have problems, go here in the documentation and see what is actually happening. So let me close. Okay. So for example, here, let's say that for my campaign, I want a box with a border, for example, a background color, and other things inside. So I will use flex. Flex call allows me to put in column everything is inside this div. Let's add a border of color gray 300. Let's make it rounded. And let's say that this roundness should be medium, but you have also large, XL, etc. Let's say we want it medium. And let's give it a background color like BG black. Let's give it some padding, and let's see what is actually happening in the front end. Okay, so we have some styling here. It's not beautiful, but at least we have something. Another cool thing you can do is add a slash here, for example, on the BG black, and say that you want it at 50%, and it will be 50% less opaque compared to the standard BG black. Now let's do something with labels here. I'm trying to resist the urge of using the auto completion of cursor. I will put this one in a paragraph here. Okay. Another thing you want to use a lot when developing front-end apps is, of course, the debugger here. I usually access it with F12, but you can do it from, I think, somewhere, yeah, inspector, but I don't remember what it is.
On page 2, select the text and then it says inspect.
On the page, I'm sorry?
Select something.
Okay, yeah, of course. This instrument here is very powerful. I don't know if you are used with it, but if you pass over something, it will highlight it and tell you what this item is. You can see the class. For example, this one is the navbar, it is sticky. This LG is something that is related to the screen width, and it is positioned on top. It's a navbar. Probably this is a custom class. So let's go here, for example, on what we just created. And as we can see here, we have all the classes that we declared in Tailwind inline. We have all of them here. So something very useful you can do, for example, when you have a lot of code, is a trick that I always use. I highlight this one, just copy it, go here inside the cursor and paste it. As you can see here, you can easily find the component that you are searching for. So we can see that, for example, here the P, probably this is a custom class from NapulETH, probably the theming thing that we saw before. It has some margin on top and bottom, which is okay. We can keep it. Otherwise, if you don't like it, of course, I think you can override it. Using MY, it says to CSS that you want margin on bottom and on top of the item. Let's try to put it at 0. Let's see if it works. Probably it's not important enough to okay, no, it worked, actually. So if you see, for example, in that case, I saw that there was a margin. The margin, as you can see here, it is characterized with the orange color, and I just removed it. So let's make this title a little bit smaller. Sorry, guys, it takes a lot to... No, it's text SM. It takes a lot to refresh. And let's make this one bigger. Text. For Excel, it's okay. Okay. Let's put some margin because it was actually a good thing. Maybe a little bit less. And essentially, we can go ahead with this, putting some more labels. I will add a gap here, a gap of 3, that it separates everything inside my card. I need to add, of course, a wrapper here, another div, to avoid putting the gap between the label and the P. And this one will be flex call as well, because we want them to be in column. And now essentially we can copy paste this here. And again, instead of saying title, now we want to say description. Here we want, of course, we can see what we actually want. Description, for example, the goal of this campaign. Okay, let's say that now we want this card a little bit more wide. We can add, for example, a mean width of 300 pixels. I think it's Okay, no, it was just a linting warning. Okay. Okay. So now we managed to retrieve some information from the blockchain, but now we'd like to interact with the blockchain as well to write something inside the smart contract. So let's say that we want to donate to this campaign. We need a button for sure and an input box because we need to decide how much we want to donate to this campaign. First of all, let me create a function to actually parse this number because, of course, we are not giving that many dollars to this campaign. It was just 50 cents. The goal was 50 cents. So let's create a const. Okay, it was suggested by Cursor, but essentially we are dividing the amount by 10, 10 to the power of 6. Sorry, this one is returned as a big int. You saw big int yesterday, right? Big int, the type in Solidity. So, well, let's say that Solidity handles only integers because, of course, on the blockchain you don't have a number with floating point numbers. Otherwise, it would be a mess with all the remainings, etc. on divisions. So everything in the blockchain is managed with integers. And so in this case, the campaign.call is a big int. We need, of course, to parse it. We can just do it with number if it works. It's not set to type string. Oh, sorry. Okay, the goal is 0.5 USDC. Sorry, I can't see it. Okay. Now let's add an input box and a button to interact with the blockchain because let's say that we want to fund this test title campaign. Let's see if they already have something in the scaffold. Yeah, like this one. So actually, I think you can import this integer input from scaffold. Let's see what it takes. So this is a React component. You can use React components like you are using HTML. The only thing that differs is that React components sometimes want some props. Props are actually the arguments that you are passing to the component. So in this case, it wants an object here that has value, onChange, name, placeholder, disabled, etc. Let's see if input props. Some of these are actually optional, like the placeholder and disabled. And to use this, the value and the onChange, we need to introduce the React states. So React states are essentially a way for React to manage the current state of a variable. So for example, let's create the const amount. They are declared like this. Amount. We need to import this one from React, the use state. And with this, essentially, you can store values inside the amount variable. So you just need to use the set amount and you will find the output inside the amount. This is useful because the states are useful because, for example, if you pass a state to a component, if the state changes, the component will reload. And this is useful, for example, for also for animations, actually. But anyway, it manages all the mounting and unmounting of React components. So let's use this amount as the value of this. Oops. Okay. Number is not assignable to type string. Oh, because it wants a string. Okay. Not sure why it wants a string, but we'll discover it later. Okay. And let's see what is happened here in our front end. So now we have the exact same thing we have inside the debug contracts, because actually it's the same component. And here inside we can write, for example, this amount. Okay, they have the multiply by 1 to the power of 18 already built in. I think there is a, yeah. For example, in this case, I'm passing a prop called disable multiply by 1 to the power of 18. And what I am expecting here is to see this vanish exactly. So you can write whatever you want inside without caring if the user clicks that small button or not, and multiplies everything. Oops, multiplies everything for this power. Let's use also a placeholder. Okay. Let's wrap this into another div to make some styling. Okay, it should go, yeah, a little bit more down, so we can logically separate the first part from the second part. Actually, let me make it a little bit more rounded. And then we need a button, of course. Don't know if they already have a button as well. Faucet button, wallet button, gamepad, connect, pagination. No, it doesn't seem they have a button. So let's just create one. Sorry. Oof. Come on. Okay, it filled it for me. So in this case, it created a button with a blue background. The text is white. It has a padding of 2, and it is rounded. Let's see how it looks. Ugly, but we're not here to style. We are here to understand how to send calls on blockchain. Of course, you can change the width of a component by specifying it like you would do in CSS. In this case, for Tailwind, you can use, for example, W1/2, which is half of the size, and it should, yeah, it actually resizes it to this 50% size. Let's put it in the center. So justify center and item center are part of the Flex family, let's say. They help you position the items inside the parent. So let's in this case we only have the button, and I'm asking it to put it in the center. Now it may not work because it worked because it's taking the whole, yeah, it's taking the whole size, but sometimes it happens that it doesn't take the whole size, and it doesn't actually work. In that case, you just need to add a VUFU here to have the div at the maximum size, and then it will position the children at the end of at the center of the div. We can also make it a little bit smaller or bigger as we wish. Let's say we can also, of course, specify the pixels. We can also say that we want it at 70%. As you can see, Tailwind is pretty user-friendly in the terms. it actually doesn't look really nice because you will see a lot of code inline code here, but it works like this. So we have to accept it. Okay. So now to write on the blockchain, for now we just read from the blockchain. To write on the blockchain, we need to use another React hook, which is this use scaffold write contract. So let's copy it. This is another tool that Scaffold provides us. We need, of course, to import it as the previous one. We need to specify the contract name, which is already provided because, as we said, we deploy it inside this framework. And then we have the right contract async, which gives an error because it's not used, but actually it works like this. So the write contract async is a function that you can call later in your code, and we will call it when we will click the button to write on the smart contract. When we call this one, let's say here, for example, we need, of course, to specify what function we are calling, what are the arguments we are passing. Everything that allows WAGME that is running under scaffold to target the smart contract and the exact function we want to target. So let's add an on click here. And here as well, it should inherit all the functions that we declared in the smart contract. So let's say we want to contribute. My God, okay. And yeah, we have, of course, we need to specify the arguments. And if we go inside our smart contract, actually, no, this one is the deploying function. We can see that the contribute function will take a campaign ID and an amount in, the amount we are actually putting inside the campaign. I'm not sure why Drone yesterday decided to use USDC. Usually it's easier to fund a campaign with Ethereum, but of course people may not want to hold Ethereum because it's volatile. So probably that's why he added USDC. We will see that there's a little problem in a matter of seconds. Actually, I want you to guess what's the problem here. Just give me a second. Let's complete this one and see the problem I'm talking about. So let's say that I want to contribute for the amount that is inside this state. I can simply use the amount here, and probably I need to use big int. Yeah. Now I'm hard coding the one. Later we will use a variable for that one as well. No. One. And since we are not sure that the user will actually click to approve this transaction, and it may throw an error, we should wrap it inside a try catch. We will see how it looks in a matter of seconds. Okay, so if you followed yesterday's lesson, what's the problem with this call that I'm doing right here? Do you remember what happens inside this contribute function? Nobody remembers. Okay. So let's go inside the code. So what happens here is that it checks if the campaign is expired. In that case, it reverts. If it is completed, it reverts. Okay. Otherwise, it adds the amount inside the amount raised here, etc. But here we see a particular function call, which is USDC.transfer from. Did Drone told you? Did Drone tell you what happens if you try to transfer USDC without an approval? Probably not. So it happens that when you are transferring the native value, which is Ethereum, it's not a problem because you can take your Ethereum and put them straight into the campaign or into the smart contract, whatever function you are calling. The problem with USDC is that USDC is actually a smart contract. So since our smart contract is calling this function, our smart contract needs the permission to do this transfer from. Yeah, exactly. That's the approve. So what I'm expecting here is to see that if I'm putting like 10, for example, yeah, exactly. It reverses because it says that transfer amount exceeds allowance. So the first thing we need to do is to check if the user has enough allowance given to our smart contract. So to do this, we need to. Oops, this is the configuration. First of all, we need, of course, the address of the user. So let's restore this one. It's not used. Okay. We need to actually read from the smart contract that is deployed on the blockchain, which represents USDC. So let's go on the debug contracts page here. And as you can see, we have a very convenient copy button here that allows us to get this USDC smart contract address. And we can put it here as a constant. Seems like it, okay, it automatically took it. Okay. And now we need to use WAGMI straight from the library to read from the blockchain. Since use scaffold read contract allows us to read from the contract that are deployed in our framework, if I remember correctly. Which one is it? Maybe we can put them inside external contract.ts. But in that case, we would need to import the ABI. Do you know what the ABI is? You know?
It's a JSON list of the functions in the contract.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, VM, which is a library that is used by Scaffold, it as well, already has the ERC20 standard ABI. So we will import it from there. Yeah, let's say it's. I will change it in a minute.
Can I add a comment?
Yeah, of course.
In general, for the front end, you should be sure which library are you using for interacting with the smart contract. Like the general use old school, they use Ether.js. If not, they use or WAGMI or VM. So you have three choices to use for your front end. Scaffold use WAGMI. And
Yeah.
there are many libraries and VR components that are compatible with that.
But as you can see here, I just imported this from VM. So VM is inside the package.
Okay.
But yeah, we are using WAGMI because essentially what VM does is doing all the calls in a sync way. So another thing that I didn't tell you about React, but it's necessary to stop a second to understand this, is that React manages sync and async functions. A sync function is actually a normal function like this one, like this parse amount. Everything happens in the front end. You don't need to wait for anything. But what an async function does is telling React that it needs to be weighted because probably it is doing an API call, it is doing a blockchain read or write. So the fact is that WAGMI allows you to use all these functions async, while VM only has sync functions. So yeah, that's probably the main difference. What's here?
The approval is sync.
The approval is async, of course, yeah. But actually, the thing is that WAGMI also has sync functions. So it's something you want to use in the front end because it also has async functions. For example, if you are calling a smart contract from your backend, because maybe you simply want to use a private key that is stored in your environment and you want to use it from your backend, you can use VM without using WAGMI core, which is the one that has sync functions. So yeah, in our case, since we are working front end mainly, we will use WAGMI. But yeah, of course, there's also VM. JS is not really used lately.
No, no, no.
Sometimes
No.
sometimes I saw it.
When usually when people try to use libraries that are not mostly compatible and they finish to use it with an API endpoint connecting, like weird languages as PHP and all other stuff.
Yeah. Actually, so JS used in situations where nothing else worked. It was just the last thing to try.
Yeah, for hackathons it's okay to use all this stuff.
Yeah, WAGMI, of course, it's
Yeah,
very very useful.
in production, the problem is that um, like the leader did devs won't move any line of code.
Mhm.
That's kind of the problem in choosing a library.
So let's see all the. Okay, let's take the allowance function, and it needs a couple of arguments. One is the. Let me check. So I went here in the Explorer to see the allowance function, how it is used. Actually, it requires an owner and a spender. This will return the amount of money that the spender can move on your behalf. So, like we have the owner, which is our connected address here, and the spender. The spender is actually our smart contract. So the thing that we can do is use deployed contract info, which is another function from scaffoldETH. I will import it here. It's starting to be a bit wide, but you have to get used to it because unfortunately or fortunately, React works in a single file like this. You have the TypeScript part and the HTML part underneath. Deployed contract data, which is so since I managed to get from the deployments my crowdfunding platform, now I have access to the address of this one. It's not liking it because it may be undefined, which is true. I'm sorry, React. um, so Uh, in this case, for simplicity, I will just add an exclamation mark that says that this is actually in place. It may not be, but we will check it later. Yeah, I know it's possibly undefined. Okay. So here now we have the allowance. The allowance, as I said, is the amount that the spender can spend. We want to check the allowance on component mount to see how much it is. So we can use a use effect, and I will explain it in a moment what it does. The use effect is another React hook that is very useful, like the use state. Everything that starts with use is actually a React hook, either implemented in React itself or custom, like this one. This one is probably custom, but the use state, for example, is implemented in React. The use effect is another one that is implemented straight from React. And what it does is triggering what's written inside, the function that is written inside, or at least the piece of code that is inside, when one of its dependencies changes. So let's say that I want to log this allowance like this, and I want to add the allowance as a dependency. This is really powerful because as soon as the as soon as the component mounts, the allowance changes because it's fetched from this use read contract, and when the allowance changes, the console log here is triggered, and this can do pretty much everything you want. You can also add more than one dependency, like for example the connected address. So in this case, when the connected address changes as well, it will be triggered again. And now I'm using it to log something, but of course in your code, maybe you want to use it at first to, I don't know, read from a smart contract, or maybe trigger a blockchain, a write on the blockchain as soon as the component mounts. Component mounting means that the component appears on your screen, to be brutally simple. So let's see if it works here in the home page. No, because it's undefined. So the problem here is that the crowdfunding platform data, first, it is undefined, or better, the address. So this is firing, but it is encountering this undefined problem, undefined variable, which is a problem for him. And let me see if there's a... I'm searching if there's a way to stop this call if it's not, if the arguments are not there. It works. Maybe it's just that I need to add it here. Sorry, guys, for the interruption. So if you want, we can make a pause so I can check this one 15-minute pause. And as soon as I have an answer, we can start back. But let's see, it's 4 p.m. Let's meet again in 20 minutes, please.
What's the common LLM that you use?
This one, you mean?
Yeah,
This one uses
just put it on.
Claude for probably
Okay, it's okay.
automatically.
So what you can do is to pass the WAGMI documentation about that function in specific.
Yeah,
and
probably.
the way you can.
Let's do it.
No problem. We have leaving about 5:40, 5:30.
Five. If you come back here 5:40 or
No. I'm leaving at 5:30.
okay. I mean, we'll probably do this right on the blockchain, and then what else? Mm, maybe create a page to create a new campaign. But I mean, as soon as you understood this part, it's probably pretty
Yes,
easy
yes.
to go ahead with yourself.
Yes, no problem. Like I have used it, not so much, but I
But
have
quite
used
quite a
it
bit. Okay.
couple of it. Yeah, it's a nice framework.
Yeah.
Let
To
it
start at least. Yeah.
Yes. Like I used like one time for a hackathon, and now what I try to do is to build just directly with Tywin and
Yeah, of course. I usually just bootstrap an XJS repo and go with that.
same thing. Yeah.
But for people that are starting, it's
In my
very
opinion, it's the
powerful.
best. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have everything. You have the a way to deploy smart contracts wherever you want,
Yes.
embed your private key, etc.
And I started using it with hard hat, but now that we took Foundry class, I will use always Foundry. Hard hat is the default one, right?
Yeah, because they started with it, but
okay.
now they added Foundry, which actually is, I think, better and more fast than Ardot.
Foundry, yeah.
Faster, yeah.
I really like Foundry. Are you done with the hackathon? I received an email that I have been accepted to the hackathon, but I had to reapply. So is it okay?
I think so, but you have to ask the other guy. That is not
No
here.
worries.
When he comes back, ask him.
No worries.
Hey. Ah, sei lì.
So I did the form that was on the website. Then for Jenny, then I started in Thailand and I refilled the form. So no problem. Okay. Yes, it is. If you don't get like accept okay, perfect. I will take it. They have many
Ehi, sì, sono un attimo bloccato su sta cosa, però sto andando abbastanza bene. Forse sono anche troppo lento.
Addirittura. Vabbè, se lento lo sapevo essere.
Eh?
Niente.
No.
Sto per dire che sto per citare Cerny come provider di team per il Chrome e sto citando che Deca è quello che l'ha fatto a WhatsApp, cioè pure te,
Sì.
e c'era pure Alex Mastro,
Alex Astro, sì.
Alex Astro,
Il mastro.
quindi vi cito tutti e tre.
Sì, come creatori sì, ovviamente, però magari dovresti specificare, poi è stato lui a tenere vivo il progetto.
Per questo non volevo sapere ridere il cazzo.
Vabbè, sì, metti che l'abbiamo fatto tutti quanti. Oppure semplicemente invece di che l'è stata fatta a Varsavia, di che lo cura Deca. Non lo so,
Allora, questo è un bolletto a favore del sistema se tu non ce l'hai. Poi, bla bla bla. Devo lavorare alla comunità maschile questa cosa, tanto bene. Noi possiamo discutere. No. Ci sta, funziona così, corretto? Questo. Allora, quella è la cadena, il sito nasce la blockchain anche non è vero, quindi te lo puoi, però tu ti devi dare anche col tuo. Voglio pagare 50, 60 centesimi di dollari con questo bolletto che non ha questa cosa, mai matematica. Tu al paese mi ancora ci resta la fame, non ci posso caricare altri soldi che si vado, faccio continua e si dovrebbe aprire il pop-up della maschera. L'applicazione. Questo funzionava quindi se io ci riprovo, confido. Quello dovrebbe essere il mio dipendente. Anche di uno. L'unico tentativo che posso fare è parlamentare di servitù, fatto un motivo posso No, perché è sempre mentre le soluzioni non te lo fa fare perché danno una sensazione di una ci dicono non è la cara dovrebbe passare anche quello.
I mean, could work. Yes, which should be imported by on Honestly, you are going to the so much the backend. Like if you start with scaffolding, it's like everything is going good. This one? Yes, it's scaffolding. Because you have to from deploying a contract to reading a contract and writing it. So you have everything in one place. Yeah. Add it, you can even put it online with a comment with to a person server. So you don't even need to go out of your group.
I was at this means 1 week wait. But that what this done just want to be.
So in my opinion, there's no. But okay, you do Swift. But what are you struggling with that?
No, now when I saw the type of script, it's the same as the Swift. Guys, I can understand.
Yeah, it's a site. It's just a type. I don't know what's Swift based on, but I feel it's just
Process differences are syntax and then the same.
yeah, it looks like.
You can see this is a let you have a very type of script. I think the types are function, but
Basically, if you come with a setup, you just get faster the rest of it, but just
They ask for the credit.
they can try to keep all the smartphone.
Even if you have to private key, someone has it already, they can use it.
Yeah, no, they have it. I'll do it. That's not the purpose. I just check it. If I go to the transaction, then I'm asking
just transaction with my
No, I'm doing a purchase on my wallet, on my website, on my wallet. And then I when I go, I want to me to do something. Or send a word.
Okay, but I can check with you.
Yeah, I can take my laptop here.
No, it's okay. You have to know the website and you're sending
So, let me on. Disconnect. That's fine.
just give me a second because when you have fonts for okay, you don't copy you don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
You should work. For example, he is not on this for
that's fine, because basically, let's say what the website, because you are essentially website for people to use it. So for you. But if you are the beginning of the that's a standard procedure for however you want to get an FTR here.
Okay. Okay, yes, now we just need to do
There is something wrong with the connection between
The same, and the ceiling is same or like.
well, sending the receipt money. No, that should be fair. That's my personal one. And the money should go normally to my country's account. Another word that is, yeah.
Transfer to the phone.
I'm just
Yeah, whatever. It's other It's everywhere.
Transfer. Confirm. Looks like the backend is not really connected.
You can go to the network tab.
But you can see the okay.
How many so much.
Exactly. Step part of work.
Okay, so if that means something with the backend, that's not me doing something with it, because it would be great for sure that I'm not able to do it.
No, it was something with the website. Yeah.
Okay,
You
thanks.
can see here.
I'll
You
send
can
you.
also
Perfect.
You have the repo.
I have a repo, yes, repo, yeah, and get that in-house.
one backend is for this project.
What do you mean, backend?
Next is, I don't know.
Yeah, no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
We wanted to have the repository.
It's easier to know what.
And all this in the JavaScript language, so no JS. That's fine. Fully no JS.
The variable is yeah, but it was in the server. Yes. Yeah, it's something maybe the credentials of the
Okay, because they changed their,
Coinbase ID for example, for using the Coinbase company, you should have an API.
yeah.
So you should use that credential in order to accept payment to the crypto, which is but it how Coinbase works.
Yeah. Okay. Even if it's everything will bring you with the error because I will tell you what is the error you screenshot. So it should no, take a screenshot of yeah. I don't want to do this. I will take that one. That's fine. Yeah, I will take a screenshot. Guys, thank you so much. Yeah, but because I know whenever I will go back to him, he will blame me. Because they it's you or not exactly.
Okay, guys, we are starting. Yeah, before we go on, if you have questions, of course, if something is not clear, everything. Okay.
About this, I think it's a complex project. You have every resources for the project. I think.
You mean scaffolded?
What is the exact name? Scaffolding.
Scaffolding is the
Yeah, it's the framework. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have pretty everything. Mm.
If I work one time with this project, I'm sure I can understand all the.
Yeah, of course. You have to put your hands in the in the game a little bit to better understand everything. I have one resource actually I can share with you for people that are not used to TypeScript. There's this super beginner friendly course here which is free. You just need to sign in. I signed in with GitHub, and here you have like problems with exercises and everything. So since the hackathon is next week, I suggest you, if you are not used to TypeScript, to give it a look, and I will give you the link in a second. This may really help you in understanding everything about like number and what else. And
TypeScript is better than the JavaScript.
yeah, actually it's safer.
Safer.
Yeah, because it's type safe, of course, because you don't incur in problems like the one that we incurred in like the undefined.
We are able not to add a string to the number.
Yeah, exactly. This is something other languages do. JavaScript is not like that, so it was needed to create this superset. So let's make some order in this file because it's starting to get big. So let's create under this utils folder. Let's create a index.ts file. Let's move, for example, this file there. This function there. Of course, we need to export it because otherwise we can't use it around. And let's also create a constants.ts file so we can put this one in the constants. And we need to export it, of course. From here, we need to import both of them. So what I did here was to use VM. So in the end, I had to move to VM because I needed an async function that wasn't a hook. Because you can't call hooks conditionally, so I couldn't put the use read contract of WAGMI inside the use effect because otherwise it would have been called conditionally, and this is not acceptable for React. So I created this use effect here. The dependencies are connected address, crowdfunding platform data .address, and the public client. I took the public client from WAGMI using this hook here, use public client. And I also use target network from hooks of scaffolded. With both of them, I got the public client, which is something that allows me to call this read contract. So the read contract here, what it does is conditionally reading from the blockchain only if the connected address is here, the crowdfunding platform data address is here, and also the public client. Otherwise, it returns. A thing that may happen to you when you're coding in React is trying to use a sync function like the read contract. You can check that it is async because it has a promise here as a return type, using the async function and awaiting them inside the use effect. What happens is that it complains because you can't actually do it. It says there's a parsing error. Okay, no, it's an actual error. It says await expressions are only allowed within async functions and at the top levels of modules. So what may jump in your mind is since this one is a function, this piece of code here is a function, why not tagging it like async? Well, it doesn't work because the use effect doesn't really like this. So what you can do instead is wrapping everything inside another function. Let's call it fetch allowance here, which is at this point marked as sync, and call this one in the use effect. So what happens here is that when it enters the use effect, the first thing it does is calling fetch allowance. When it goes into fetch allowance, it checks if these variables here are filled with something. If they are not, it stops. This way I can read read from the contract conditionally. And what happens in the front end is that here I manually went there inside the USDC contract and set some allowance for this spender, which is our smart contract. I put this big number here, and in the front end I can see that the allowance is 1 to the power of 36. So now I have some allowance. Let me remove it so we can go back to the previous situation. Of course, to remove it, I have to sign a transaction because I'm changing the state of the blockchain. As soon as it is done, we should see that the allowance is 0. Now I'm reloading. When I reload, the component mounts, the use effect is called, and it logs allowance 0. Because actually what I did here is to set the allowance inside a state, which I declared here, initialized with 0. And when this state changes, it gets logged. So that's why I'm seeing the allowance here. So now what we know at this point is that the user has 0 allowance for our smart contract. Since it's needed, we need to check before calling this contribute function here, otherwise it reverts. We need to check if the allowance is enough. If it's not enough, we need to call this function here, the approve function from the smart contract. So I went to the WAGMI documentation to see the use write contract function. I will give it to you in a second, so you can check it with me if you want. And the use write contract function, actually it's a hook and it's not a function, gives out a function called write contract. And here we can see an example. The write contract needs the exact same things that the scaffold this one needs. But with this one, we can call something that is not inside our framework. In this case, we will call the USDC contract. So let's use this. I will copy this hook here. I also added some comments because I'm planning to push this on GitHub and share it with you, so it may come in handy in the future. And now let's move this function that I declared inline here outside because I want it to be cleaner. Of course, it's a sync because we need to send a transaction. And now here we need to check, first of all, if there's the allowance. If user allowance. If the user allowance is less than the amount the user wants to put inside the campaign, we need, of course, to trigger the approval step. So instead of logging this one, which is not something I want to do, my bad. I need to use the right contract that we got from the hook up here. Oof, what's that? Yeah, of course it's not used. Instead of the ABI, of course, we need to use the ERC20 ABI from VM. I think we already imported it, right? Yeah. The function name is approve. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm changing another thing. Okay. The function is approve. The address is, of course, the USDC address. And now the arguments. So if we go here in the Explorer, we can see the arguments are two: the spender, which is our smart contract, and the value. So as before, as we did before, we can get the address of the smart contract from here, from the right contract. I'm sorry, from this one, crowdfunding platform data. And the amount, of course, is the amount that the user wants to add to the campaign. Of course, here it says that this may be undefined, and it's not good. This is the same problem we had before. But in this case, we are doing everything inside another function, so we can check before doing it, before launching, actually writing the contract. And this is TypeScript saying this. If it was Java, if it was for JavaScript, you could have launched this without problems, and it would have resulted in an error. So we have to thank TypeScript, even if sometimes it's pretty annoying. So here we can check if not crowdfunding platform data.address, we can return. And as you can see, TypeScript now it stays silent because knows that this one will always be here at this point of the code. So the amount is already in this form. So cursor is saying something false. And this happens only if the user allowance is less than the amount. Otherwise, if it's not, we can go ahead with the previous piece of code that we had in the onClick function, which was this one, contribute. We can avoid using this because we are not calling a function. Okay. Try write contract. Again, here, let's surround this one with a try because we don't know if the user may close, for example, MetaMask, and in that case, it would result in an error. And looks like I didn't close a bracket. Okay. And now we can use this handle button click inside our onClick prop for the button. Cannot find this is false. Okay. Let me check if everything is correct. If we don't have an allowance, we need to check if we have this. If we have this, we can go ahead, and if we go ahead, we can approve for this amount to our crowdfunding platform address. Okay, this happens if something doesn't go well. Otherwise, we can write the contribute. Now, since we are, as you can see here, I put big int 1. Okay, this is the campaign for which we are contributing. This is incorrect because, of course, we want to contribute to the campaign that we are actually putting the amount in our front end. So this is incorrect. So we need to add a campaign ID here, because of course this one is a function. We can pass arguments, and we can put the campaign ID here. Now here, of course, it winds because we need to call this function with the right argument, which is, since here we are mapping on the campaigns, we can add the index like this, and this will represent the index of the array item that is currently being rendered. So if I'm interacting with the, okay, yeah, I need to close something here, just a second. Index +1. Okay, let me show you. Now imagine that here in the front end, you have, let's say, 100 campaigns. In that case, every one of them will have the index mapped to their position inside the array. So this one is index 0. But since I know that inside our smart contract, everything starts from 1, I don't know why Drone did this, but here, before creating a campaign, the counter increases. Everything starts from 1. So what I needed to do is adding a 1 here to the index as well. Nothing too difficult, but anyway, it's something that may be corrected in the Solidity code, but I don't want to redeploy the contract. So now let's see if it works. Let's say I want to add 100 USDC. Maybe I don't have 100. Let's see, I want to add 0.3. Oh, okay, no, because here we are not, my bad. Here we need to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need to use them as integers. When I click here, what happens is that I don't have enough allowance, so it is asking to increase the spending cap. The amount of the spending cap is 0.3 USDC. The spender is our smart contract, and we can confirm this. I think, okay, it went through. So if we go here and we go to read as proxy, this is the USDC smart contract, we can see that the allowance is increased now. So the owner is me. And the spender again is the smart contract, but I think I need to copy it again.
You can just scroll up and copy and paste.
Which one? This one?
Scroll, yeah.
No, this one is the smart contract of USDC. I needed to get the one from. So as we can see here, we have 30 cents of allowance. A lot. But at this point, if I go here and I put, let's say, 30 cents, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it should trigger this one, the other one, the transaction request. So let's go with this one. Transaction completed successfully. And now at this moment, yeah, I want to go check if everything went through. So let's check our smart contract here, which is this one, I think. And we can see a couple of transactions here. This one was the one that I did to create the campaign, and this one is the one that I used to contribute to the campaign. So yeah, using WAGMI and also the hooks from Scaffoldit, you can do pretty much everything. You just need to pass the right arguments to the functions that are provided by the Solidity code. And what else we can do now? So first of all, I would like to convert this to a human readable amount, because right now we are just seeing how much is it? 300,000, which is not like very human readable. So what we can do here is instead of using the amount like this, we could, for example, use a number. It will whine, of course, because as we saw inside the integer input, we had this. Amount. Okay. It's value with value. Because this one only accepts integers. Okay. Let's convert this into a standard input. Okay. Let's add some styling. It starts from 0. This one is useless now. Okay. Fetch allowance. Okay. It's possibly undefined. So what I'm doing here is actually changing toward a customized input field. So I can do pretty much whatever I want here. Let's like this or 0.2. And then when we will send this amount to our smart contract, we need, of course, to convert it, because right now it's not an integer anymore. So here, when we want to contribute, we need to transform it, yeah, exactly like this. And here also, when we want to approve, we need to transform it like this. And when we have the user allowance as well, we need to transform it again like this, because the user allowance is returned by blockchain read that returns begins. So it's with 6 decimals, six zeros, I mean. Okay, I think it should work now. Let's try with 0.8. Now, if I try to contribute for 0.8, it should trigger it, the approve function again. Transfer amount exceeds allowance. Probably because let's see what's the allowance of the user. Is 0, it says. Okay, actually it is 0. Yeah, but I don't know why this is passing, because user allowance and user allowance 0 amount. Okay, because user allowance may be undefined, and if this doesn't pass, it goes straight to the else statement. So there's the user allowance and the user allowance. Okay, let's not get stuck with this. I'm sorry. I wanted to do something useful, but I ended up making a mess. Let's go back with the default one. And check if it works, because actually I'm not sure. Okay, with this it works. Probably there's only a calculation that is going wrong. Anyway, it's the exact same flow, so I won't do it again. What can we do? Let's try to get, for example, the amount that the user has already contributed to each campaign, which could be a cool thing. So let's check if we have a function that does that. I think there's get contribution by user. If you provide the campaign ID and the user address, you can get the amount that the user contributed to the campaign. So let's use this one as well. But the only problem is that, of course, if you are, here we are mapping all the campaigns, and we should do this for each single campaign. So the easiest thing to do here in this case is creating another React component and put the fetch the blockchain read inside that React component instead of having it here. Because otherwise, if I do that outside of this piece of code here, it would result in a reading of which campaign, we don't know. We need to get this index and do the job for each campaign, each single one. So let's create another component. We can go here inside component, new file. Yeah, campaign.tsx. Can export a campaign. And what we can do is putting the whole thing, the whole box here, inside that piece of code. Of course, it will whine because a lot of information are not here. This one I can import it, so it's not this one is not a big problem here. The problem is that we miss some important information. For example, the campaign object. Then we are missing also the amount and the set amount, which depends on the campaign. So what we can do here is to take the amount and the set amount and move it inside the campaign. So every card will have its own, okay, please, its own amount, of course. When we click the button, we click the button for a specific campaign, so we can move this one inside the campaign item here as well. When we do the user allowance, we are doing the user allowance for all the campaigns because we are checking if the user has given the allowance to the smart contract, not a single campaign. So we can do with a user allowance is passing it as a prop. So I can create an interface here, which is essentially a declaration of a type in TypeScript. Campaign interface. And here we can put, for example, the campaign item, which has some information like the title, the description, the goal, not the ID, please. Yeah, I know. The campaign, then the user allowance, etc. And here we can pass everything as a prop to this campaign component. The fact is that we are calling them props, but actually they're like arguments for functions. So in this case, I will pass the campaign, the user allowance as props for this function. We are missing some other things, like, for example, this one that I can pass as well, because actually this one is something that we can use in each one of the campaigns. It's not needed to call this hook here. It's not needed to call it every time. So you just call it one time on the parents component load, and then you can use in each one of the campaigns. Okay, the write contract function, we can get it from here. Okay, use write contract can be imported from WAGMI. This one can be imported from VM. This one can be imported from our constants. Write contract async is something we need to get from no, I think this is something we actually put. Okay, this one. Of course, doing this, creating components for your project makes the code way cleaner than stuffing everything inside just one file. What else do we miss? The index, of course, yeah, the index of the campaign, and we can add it here, index number. Okay, and it's added also here as an argument. So now the campaign item is ready, the campaign component, and we can use it here inside this return. So now we are essentially iterating over all the campaigns, and for each one we are creating a new component to render inside the DOM. And what we need to do, of course, is import the component, give it a key, because every component you're using inside a mapping needs a key, which can be, yeah, the index is okay. The campaign winds because bigint is not assignable to type number. It's just a TypeScript whining about things. This one is a very complex type, crowdfunding platform data. Now, TypeScript has a wildcard you can use. I highly suggest you not to do it, but for efficiency reasons, I will do it here, which is the any type. With any type, you can pass pretty much whatever you want, but you need to expect. I mean, you should not whine if there are errors, because you are essentially not checking this type. But I'm pretty sure that inside this one there's the address, so I can do it in this case. Otherwise, the best thing to do is try to understand what type of what kind of type this one has, like for example, going inside the package here and check that it returns this one, deployed contract data, the contract name. So probably there's a way to import this one. It's not exported anyway. Okay, let's just use any. I don't suggest you to do it, but here to be faster, it's the best approach. So essentially what I did here is cleaning up the code doing this. And as you can see, it's way more elegant than before. And this is a strength from React side, the components. I highly suggest you to create them and use them. Also because as more you go into the project, especially during an hackathon, the more you are going to be confused because you're tired, because a lot of code stacks up. So using components helps a lot. Even if it seems like a waste of time at first, it repays when you need to debug, for example. Okay, yeah, here we have all the campaigns, public time. So let's try to create another campaign to see how they look into the application. Okay. Let's go back to this one. It looks awful because we are stacking them as a columns. Because as you can see here, the parent div here is using flexing call. We want to use flex row, which is the default one when using the flex class. So if you remove flex call, it works as a row. Okay, thank you. Let's put them in the center. Now I'm saying size full means that also the height is full. Let's put them in on the top. Looks better. Let's add some gap so they are not stick together. And as you can see here, we have a couple of campaigns. And now interacting with them is essentially interacting with the React component one by one. So they're not tied to just one implementation of the right contract we wrote before. As you can see, of course, the goal is different, etc. So what else? Yeah, everything started because we wanted to check how much you have funded the campaign for. So of course, we will use scaffold read contract. The contract name is our crowdfunding platform. Function name is, I think it's get contribution by user, yeah. And now as arguments, since we are inside this component, we can use the index that we passed as a prop here. Again, we need to add the +1 because there was that little problem inside the smart contract. And of course, the connected address, which is the user that is actually connected to our application. Yeah, we don't have the connected address, but it's not a problem because we have this hook here, the use account hook, and we can use it again inside the let's get it from here, from a prop. It's better. Otherwise, it's called every time it renders something inside the component. No, not this one. Oops. Oh, okay. Sometimes it gives errors, and I don't know why. Okay, this is the user contribution. It's not used, so it gives an error. But where should we write it? Maybe here below, like in as a small piece. I hope you don't mind if I start pressing tab a lot and using cursor, but I don't want to write everything. So your contribution is this one. Let's make it a row. Gives another number. Nice. Let's check what's inside this one. I'm using the use effect to see what's inside each user contribution. I want to understand why it's none, which is not a number. Probably because you didn't contribute to anything. So let's get to the contract. Not this one, this one. Yeah, of course, because right now it's trying to access the mapping. And if you try to access a mapping and nothing is returned, it actually returns undefined. So if we have undefined, oh, I'm sorry. No. Maybe it's my fault because I probably, yeah, I wasn't passing the connected address. Okay, yeah, now it works. It returns 0. So at least we can see our contribution here. Okay. So yeah, essentially we managed to get also the contribution you already gave to the campaign. Another thing we can do is maybe disable the contribute button if the campaign has ended or reached the goal. Just give me a second because I want to add to this button a cursor pointer, which, as you can see, transforms the cursor into the pointer, which is like the thing you should do with buttons. Also, another cool thing, before going ahead, another cool thing about Tailwind is that you can specify classes that are applied only on specific in specific moments. Like, for example, if I write hover VG blue 600, when I hover on the bottom, you can see there's a small animation, which is not really good. So I will also add, transition. Thanks, cursor. Transitional and duration 300 says that it should animate everything involving a change of color and shape, and the duration is 300 milliseconds. So it's, as you can see, it's a bit smoother, the animation. Also, another thing we can do, of course, always with the over, is, exactly, scaling the button, which is another thing, another cool thing you can do if it refreshes. Yeah. So at least you have something that is in motion, something that is nicer to see also during the pitching to the judges. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's perfect. And if you want something more sophisticated, there's a library called Framer Motion. I don't know if you have time to study it during this week, but you can go for React here and install it. It's a package like the one that I installed before, and you can use it to do all kind of animations like moving objects, buttons that do strange things while hovering, like fading in and fading out effects, etc. Okay. What else? Let's see if the campaign has ended or not, if it reached the goal. Maybe another thing we can do is also checking what's the current contribution, because now we are seeing the contribution that you did to the campaign, but we are not seeing the contribution that everybody did to the campaign. So let's see if there's a view function that Drone left us here to see. Get campaigns, get contribution for all campaigns. It looks like he didn't.
Get campaign range.
No, that one actually returns a set of campaigns in a specific range from start to end. This one returns all the contribution you did to the various campaigns. So yeah, we don't really have a way to get all the contributions to this campaign. Which one?
In the interfaces file, could be there's something.
Doesn't look. Oh, amount raised actually. Yeah. You're right. We have the amount raised. So it's ready made. It's ready made. We can add it under your contribution. Thanks for this. I didn't notice your contribution. Let's add, for example, another one. It says it doesn't exist in this type, which is strange. It's pretty strange. Yeah, of course, because it's my bad. I didn't tell TypeScript that this is part of the return type of the campaign. Okay, yeah, as we can see, the total contribution here is 0.3. Okay, what else? Yeah, we can check if the state of the campaign, and I think this is part of the interface as well. Status. The status should be, it's just a number, 0, 1, or 2. Let me check. Campaign active. Yeah, like for example here, if the amount reaches the goal, it's in the Solidity code, it also sets the campaign status to completed. So let's also the claimed one, I think, is when the creator of the campaign can retrieve the money from a completed campaign. We'll just check if it's active or completed for now. So if it's Since we already have this status here, of course we can create a enumeration here, campaign status. I created this enumeration just to replicate what's inside the Solidity code. So it's easier for me to check if the campaign has ended without just saying if it's equal to 2 or 1 or 0 or whatever. Let's add, for example, a green border if it's completed. It may work. Or better, no, let's add a label. So I can show you another thing. When you're coding with Tailwind, you can put things inside the parent div. Like in this case, I put everything inside, but you can also position things in an absolute way. So for example, here is the main div, the other one, the one that has the border in gray. Let's say I want to position something that is not inside, but put, for example, here on top, like a small green label here. I can do this by flagging this one as relative. And here inside, you can add a comment as well, because here you can actually put whatever you want in TypeScript. Yeah, this is adjusting something that I like, actually. Let's put it in top 0, right 0. Okay, the background color is green, text white. Okay, something like this. Let's see how it appears. As you can see here, we have this active label. Another thing we can do, since it's pretty small, but yeah. As you can see, it is going outside. I don't like it. I can do like an overflow hidden here. Not sure it works for absolute. Yeah, it works for absolute components as well. I may not like this small rounded part here, so I may want to make it rounded only on bottom left, if I remember correctly. Yeah, exactly. Oh, my bad. It's not this one. And as you can see, it's a quite decent effect to understand if a campaign is active or not, or if it's completed. Let's say we want to do it dynamically and not just write active inside. We can use the enumeration we saw before. So let's take the campaign.status equals. I can take the name of this enumeration, which is campaign status dot active. And here I can use ternary operators like I would do in every other programming language. I just need to wrap everything with parentheses. So here I'm saying that if the campaign status is active, I'm rendering active this pan with active inside. Otherwise, if the campaign status is completed, let's see what cursor proposed to us. It says completed, yeah, fair enough. Otherwise, it's claimed, which is true, actually. Let me check if everything matches up. Active, completed, and claimed. And we have active, completed, and claimed. Of course, since you can write code like TypeScript code inside your HTML code, you can, for example, change this background color just by adding parentheses here. So you're not passing a prop, this class name prop as a string, but you want, let's say, pass it. Okay, this is suggesting the actual thing. You want to pass it as an evaluated string. An evaluated string is something that looks looks like this. It starts with this backtick here, and inside this dollar curly brackets thing, you can put your TypeScript code. And it is evaluated like, I don't know if you used Python, for example. It is evaluated like this. So it checks if the campaign is active. In that case, it puts the background color to green. Otherwise, if it's completed, it's red. I would love to go to something a little bit different. Yeah, exactly, like this. Otherwise, if it's claimed, it's gray. And here you have the rest of the prop that we are passing. So as we can see here, we have it in a nice yellow color. So let's try to complete this campaign. I think we can add one like this. Of course, it's asking to. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to add more zeros. This is 10 cents. This is $1. Actually, I just need 20 cents. Okay, I can contribute. Spending cap requests. Because I didn't refetch the allowance. Sorry. So the problem here is that since the allowance is fetched just one time, when the component mounts here with this fetch allowance, it's not refetched when I actually wrote in the smart contract that I added some allowance to the spender, which is our smart contract address. So what we can do is extract this fetch allowance from here, put it, let's say here, like this. Since this is a function that must change every time that these dependencies change, I need to use this other React hook, which is called the use callback. And what this actually does is changing what's inside fetch allowance every time one of these dependencies change. And since fetch allowance changes, it will be called by this use effect. So the effect is pretty much the same, but now I have this function that I can pass to the campaign component to be called inside the component when I'm launching, when I'm pressing the button, actually. I mean, when the transaction is completed, actually. We need to add this fetch allowance here. Okay. So what happens here is that when you completed this write contract, it should refetch the allowance. So is this one a sync? No. Can I mark it as a? I think This one, oh no, this one is not a promise, but it should be. Promise void. So going back here, I should have the allowance anyway because I did it before. Let's try to add 0.2. Again, here I should refetch the contributions, otherwise it's not refetching on its own. I will reload the page, but essentially what you should do is doing the same exact thing I did before with the allowance, and refetch all the campaigns when the transaction is actually mined in the block, which is these campaigns. Use scaffolding. For example, here there should be a refetch function that we can use. We can pass it to the component as we did before with the other one. Here we have the same exact problem as before, the fact that this is a very complex type and we don't have time to understand how it is made. So I will go with any, but again, don't do it in production, please. Refetch campaigns. Okay, and this essentially should do the work of refetching all the campaigns from the blockchain to see if something actually changed. Let's see if it works here. Let's make me reload this. Of course, since we are the guy that deployed these campaigns, we should be able to get all the contributions that people did to the campaign, but I didn't implement it yet. Maybe something we could do is changing this part here if you are the creator of the campaign, and if the campaign is completed, we could actually put just a button that allows you to take everything from the campaign. Yeah. Let's see one. Let's contribute to this one. It should ask, yeah, of course, for the spending cap request. I hope refetches the allowance, otherwise I need to refresh the page. But okay. Yeah, it did it, but actually a little bit later, which should create a better way to wait for that refetch. But anyway, it worked without reloading the page. So the transaction is successful. Okay. And it didn't refetch the campaigns. God damn it. Oh no, it did it. Oh, okay, yeah, it did it actually. It took a while. One thing we could do also is propagating the state of this refetch. So for example, here we should have, yeah, and it's is loading item. This is a state, which has it's true whenever the first fetch. Okay, no, it's not this one. There's another.
Also check the state of the transaction.
The state of the transaction. I think you can do it.
Yeah, and it has a function for that.
Yeah, exactly. Also WAGMI. I'm not sure about Scaffold, unfortunately, but yeah, you should be able to check it. Also, for example, to show the transaction link to the user, because right now we're just showing the user that everything is updating in a strange, random way. But if you want to do things like they should be done, you should at least show a transaction link. But anyway, I think it's this one is pending. Or is fetching. It should be this one is fetching. So if we have this is fetching function, is fetching state. Let's say it's like blurred, or it has some opacity in order to show that something is happening. It's fetching campaigns. Or better, instead of using it here, we can do it here and say if is fetching campaigns, we should, yeah, exactly. It's complaining because you cannot use curly brackets inside square parentheses when you are using a ternary operator, like in this case. So it was complaining I had to wrap everything inside this, which is like a void HTML piece of code, and it stops complaining. But the loader 2, this one is actually takeable from Lucid React, I think. Let's see if it likes it. Sorry guys, it's a pretty slow, probably because I'm streaming. Okay, put it here. Okay, I need pin text byte size. So a trick you can use when you're, for example, debugging loading states and you are in React is just putting a not in front of this state, is fetching campaigns. It should show this one, which is our loading state. Let's make it H full, so it should go in the center, I think. No, it's not doing it. Great. Let's just add some margin. Okay, now let's create another campaign. And let's see if this is fetching works. I don't have it anymore. Okay, let's see if it created the third one. Okay, let's contribute to this one with for 20 cents. It's asking for the spending cap. Now it should refetch it. I hope so. Okay, the transaction went through. Okay, it's not doing it. Okay, it did it. But yeah, but I don't understand why it did that without actually getting the contributions. I wanted to check if it reverted in any case, because it's not getting the. I mean, it went through. But it ate our money. Great. It looks like this one didn't really went through.
Can you check the transaction on the?
Yeah, maybe here. 1 minute to go. Contribute. I mean, it says it was successful.
The amount. Yeah.
Hmm?
Okay.
The value is not in it, so we cannot check it from there. But it didn't revert, so something strange happened actually.
Can you retry?
Yeah, let's retry it. Anyway, it looks like the is fetching thing is not really working as expected. Just let me try something different. It's not is fetching. Is fetching probably. His loading is better. Is refetching success? Yeah, probably is loading. Whenever the first fetch for a query is in flight, it's fetching and it's pending. Okay. Let's see if it works. Start. No, let's keep it. Let's try again.
It looks like it is not triggering USDC.
The spending cap. I mean, it should not trigger the spending cap in the first place because I think we have one. Okay, it's complete.
USDC token, I saw like not USDC.
Excuse me.
I saw only an ETH as the.
Yeah, because that was the transaction to contribute.
Okay.
It wasn't getting the USDC. I mean, I think MetaMask doesn't show you what actually it is happening with the tokens, because USDC, of course, is famous, but you don't know what tokens it may handle your the smart contract you're interacting with.
That's what I left to. I quit MetaMask.
Yeah, you're right. There's Rabi that is way
Yeah.
better, and of course other wallets, but MetaMask is probably the most used. Also, it is a pretty somehow buggy sometimes. It's not the greatest one, but anyway, to start it is perfect. So yeah, we have 3 completed campaigns. Yay! I think we don't have much more time because we have to close at in 10 minutes. If you have questions or anything else. Nothing. Okay, so talking about tomorrow, we will see this website right here. If you want, you can start checking it. It's called Speedrun Ethereum. This one has a set of challenges. The first one is super easy. The last one is very hard. And what you need to do is just connect your wallet to the website. You need to register by signing a message. And once you're in, you can start doing these challenges. So let's take, for example, this one. This one will guide you through the creation of a simple NFT. And it has all the commands. That's why I'm saying it's super easy. It says everything you need to do. Like here, the checkpoint 2 is minting. You will see some NFTs in your account. Essentially, is allowing you to play with the smart contracts, the front end a little bit. Not this one in particular, not this challenge in particular, but the more you go ahead, the more you will see that it will become difficult, but also fun to do. And we will do, I think, at least 2 or 3 challenges, and I will be with you, of course. So if you have problems or anything, I will help you. And this is pretty useful actually, because it guides you through things like, for example, the token vendor, which is essentially sending your Ethereum to a smart contract that gives you a custom token. It's something that some applications actually do in the real world. You have a staking hub here. This is about probably randomness, and it says randomness is tricky on a public deterministic blockchain. So this is a challenge you have to face. This one is actually probably the first one that is pretty hard, building a very simple DEX. Do you know what a DEX is? It's a decentralized exchange. That means that people can exchange their tokens permissionless without a third party, which usually is like, for example, your bank. If you are exchanging, like, let's say, dollars for euros, or maybe if you want to buy cryptocurrency, you may use Binance, but that one is a CEX, which is a centralized exchange. DEX, the centralized exchange, bypass the problem of having a third party. Probably the most notable example of this is Uniswap, which is probably the most used actually. And if you go on Uniswap, for example, you can select your tokens, the tokens that you want to receive, and essentially swap them. But yeah, this is called a DEX. And then you have all these other challenges that are way more difficult, and they are actually locked. When you arrive here, if I remember correctly, they add you to a Telegram group, so you can talk with other people to better overcome these challenges. But anyway, it's pretty useful, and we will see it tomorrow. Okay. You can go in peace.
Do you have the record of the class?
Hmm?
The record of the class.
Yeah, I think it is for sure recorded. They need to stop the recording. Okay.